Hello, hello, good evening. It's Monica from Life is Art, and it's Wednesday. Let's create. And I'm just getting everything set up. I'm kind of starting a minute early just so I can get everything kind of lined up. I think that's about as good as we're going to get it. I'm in a different place than normal. I'm out at my dining room table and my camera is attached to my table. And so you can see it jiggling a little bit. So I will do my best to limit the amount of jiggling, but it's a wobbly table. And so it is what it is. And I've got a lovely little table lamp from my living room side table propped up beside me here to provide some light. So you're going to find that there's a lot of shadow over here because my camera is creating a shadow. And it's a bit like crafting. You use what you have. And so this is where we're at today. If you're joining me live, just say hello or howdy so I know you're here. And if you're watching later on replay, you can say replay. I see Shannon's here already. Good evening, Shannon. Hope you're feeling good. And I apologize before I even start that I will probably be coughing at some point during this video. And I will try not to cough too loudly. But it can't be helped sometimes. So we are going to be creating a tri-fold card this evening, which is not necessarily anything new to anybody, but we're going to be using a couple of stamp sets to help us with the embellishments. We're going to be using the Cutest Cows stamp set, and we're also going to be using the Flowers of Beauty, and both of these are available through Stampin' Up, and they're in the current annual catalog. This one is actually one that's carried over from last year, and so it's still available, which I was super excited about because you know me, I love my cows. And yeah, so we're going to be using both of these stamp sets. We're also going to be using the Unbounded Beauty collection, which is a gorgeous collection that features all of the new in-colors for the 2024 to 2026. So let me see if I can remember all of them. There are 5. So there is Petunia Pop. There is Summer Splash, Shy Shamrock. There is Pretty in Pink and Peach Pie. Peach Pie. Those are the 5 in colors. I'm like quizzing myself right now, giving everybody an extra minute to find us and click on in. Good evening, Joanne. Nice to see you're watching. So we're going to be creating a trifold card, and we're going to be doing a little bit of cutting and scoring. So I've got my scoreboard here, and we're going to begin with a piece of the Summer Splash paper. And this has been cut to 12 inches by 4 1/4. And I will be posting all of the measurements when I post the photos of the card. And so we're going to start by scoring this at 4 inches along the 12-inch side. We're going to score at 4 inches, like so. And then we're going to do something a little bit different. We've scored it at 4 inches. Now we're going to take this whole piece of paper, flip it horizontally. So now the bump of that 4-inch score line is over here at the 8-inch mark. And then we're going to score it again at 4 inches. And the only reason for that is so that our score lines are going 2 different directions, because that's the easiest way to make a trifold card. And so now we have a dip here and a bump here. And if we flip it over, we've got the same thing on the other side. Just going to move my scoreboard. That's all the scoring we have to do. Super simple. So you know that when you have a score line, you want to fold it with the bump side to the inside. So we've got a dip here now because I've turned the paper around. So we're going to fold that with the bump side, which is on the back, to the inside, which means we're sorry, I'm losing my voice. That means we're creating a mountain fold. Just going to use the handle of my scissors to crease that down. And so there's our mountain fold. And on our second score line, sorry, I see my camera is jiggling wiggly woggly. We're going to create a valley fold. So that means we push the score line down into the valley, raising the paper up, or just think about folding with the bump side to the inside. And we want to make sure that everything lines up nice and straight and crease it down. I apologize, that wiggling is just going to keep happening because this is such a jiggly table. When I used to do my videos out here at this table many moons ago, I actually would have a chair beside me and then a footstool on the chair and then my camera attached to the footstool. It was a rather precarious tower, but it kept the jiggling down because it wasn't attached to the table where, you know, jiggling happens. Okay, so now we have our tri-fold. We've got a mountain fold and a valley fold. We've got 3 sections that are 4 inches by 4 1/4. And we want to bring in some of the lovely paper from the Unbounded Beauty collection. And this is some that has that Petunia Pop color going on it. It's a lovely sort of rustic stripe happening. The back side is this really pretty floral, but we're going to use the front side, and each of these are going to go in those 3 panels. So those 3 pieces are 3 3/4 by 4 inches. Let me just double check that, but I'm sure that's the right. Yes, 3 3/4 by 4. So I'm going to go ahead and add some adhesive. If I can find the end of my adhesive, I'm going to scooch up here so you can see what I'm doing. Just going to add some adhesive to these. I might even add one in the middle. Let's do it to all of them. Hopefully I'm not terribly off camera. And hopefully y'all don't get seasick from the jiggling. At least the arm that I use to hold my camera is much sturdier than the one I used to use originally, which was very bouncy. And it was literally like, you felt like you were on the rolling ocean tides when it was jiggling. Okay, so let's remove the backings. And we're going to center this in the center of the first panel, like so. And we're going to continue our way across. There's some really nice vibrant color in this In-Colours collection. I know some of you took advantage of the joining special that they had in May and got a sampling of all of the In-Colours from that joining special, which is super awesome. There we go. Okay, so we filled in those 3 panels. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, that's great, but that's pretty much a square card. But we're going to actually make it into a regular, well, it's not 4 1/4. It's 4 inches wide, but it's going to be 5 1/2 inches tall. And to do that, I have cut 3 pieces of black cardstock that are 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. But we're going to modify these a little bit because they look a little plain Jane the way they are right now. So I'm going to just scooch this up out of the way. Now this is going to be a little bit tricky for you to see, but what I want to do is flip this over to the back side because I've brought my pen with me and not a pencil, so I can't erase anything. And I'm going to measure in from the corner 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to measure up from the corner 1/2 inch. And I'm going to do that on all 4 corners. So I'm coming in 1/2 inch and down 1/2 inch. So we're marking all the 1/2 inches away from the corners. And what we're going to do with this little measurement is we're going to take our scissors and we're going to trim an angle from that measurement to that measurement. And we're just going to trim an angle so we get a nice little mitered sort of corner on all four sides of our piece of black cardstock. So let's go around, just do a nice straight snip, just shoop, one fell swoop. It will always work out best if you do one fell swoop. Now that we have done that on this one, we can use it as a template on the other ones. So I'm just going to line up the other two on top and trim around all four corners. Oops, I realize I'm off camera. My camera has moved a little bit in a weird position from where I usually work. Now, when you do this, you always go back to the original template. You don't play telephone tag when you're trimming things. So always go straight back to the original, because every time you make a copy, it gets a little off, right? So if you kept going, your third one would be really different from the first one. So no telephone tag. All right, all our little triangles. Now before I attach this to the card base, just going to scoop all those little triangles away, I want to bring in some designer series paper from the Unbounded Beauty collection, same as where that base layer came from. And so I'm going to be using this beautiful floral cluster DSP. I'm going to be using this pretty in pink, sort of white, almost looks like emboss resist. It's not emboss resist, it's just a printed pattern. But it has that kind of effect, like you've stamped in white and then inked. And also this one in the Shy Shamrock. And so, and that's kind of a mix actually, the Shamrock and the Splash. So for these, I want to do the same corners that we did before. And because I know that this piece is going to go on this piece of paper, I'm going to use this piece of paper as my guide. And so all we're going to do is we're going to tap it, so that piece of paper gets right up in the corner like that, so that the edges of the pattern paper are lined right up with the edges of the cardstock. And then we will trim. So this is like custom fit. Now we need to move this out and line it up so that the edges of our pattern paper are lined up with the edges of the cardstock. Trim. And we're going to do this for all three. So I will quickly do this. Now, if you don't want to cut an angled edge like this, you don't have to. You could use a corner rounder if you wanted. Oops. A little bit off. Gotta make sure you're lined up. And now, because we have cut that based on the cardstock, when we layer it on top, as long as we don't twirl it around, it should fit lovely and exactly in the center of that black cardstock, because that was the pattern for it. So we're just going to set that there. Scooch all our little bitty bits. And we're going to go to the next one. So I'm going to take my front of the pattern I want, put it behind the cardstock, and trim the corners. So if you've ever wondered how people get interesting shapes, sometimes it's because they have a die, and sometimes it's because they just use their scissors. So if you had a die that cut an interesting shape, that would totally work for this style of card where we're making 3 different panels. You could use a tag die. You could use an oval. You could, anything you can think of. one of those postage edge dies. Trying to grab all the little bits. So there, we're going to stack that up. And then our last one. Hey Mom, nice to see you're watching. And Kimberly's here too. Hey Kimberly. And then, oops, that one shifted. Line them up. Trim them off. Line them up. So for those of you who are joining a few minutes later, and you wonder why this looks different, I'm out in my dining room and doing my live video. So there we go, and that will fit on the center of that. Okay, now let's get those stuck together. Grab our adhesive. Try to grab the backing. Not very successfully. All right, and I find it's actually difficult for me to line this up on black cardstock with the black mat behind. So I'm going to just kind of lay it on top of the pretty pattern paper here so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to use my scissors to help me with this little process. I could be using my piercing tool or my take your pick tool because it's right here, but what's the first thing Monica grabs for? Her scissors. Who'd have thunk it? There we go. And then the last piece I kind of like, I was making one of these earlier and I was using white cardstock for these panels. And I inked the edges and I did all sorts of things because it didn't feel right. And then I thought, what if I try black cardstock? And I tried it and I like it better. Although there's some really dark green in here. I think it's the Pretty Peacock. And that would probably also look very good. However, I need to get more of that stuff. All right. Now we need to attach this to our card. So let me get us up here so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to line it up along the line here on my Versamat. And I'm going to take my cardstock and flip it over. And I want to come up to 5.5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. So in our books here, it'll be 9.5. Pardon me. So we're going to come up with the top edge at 9.5 and center it from side to side in this panel, which will give us about 3/8 of an inch on either side. And the reason why we're lining it up there is so that, and upside down, backwards, whatever, is that we can add our adhesive and know that we're adding it in the right place so that we won't have adhesive stuck way out here. Just get that backing off. There we go. Okay, so coming back in with the front side now, we're going to line it up at the 5.5 inch mark, halfway from side to side, like that. There we go. And technically, I should have probably done this one first because that just makes more sense. But we're gonna make it work. What we're gonna do is we're gonna stick this one on top of this one. I kind of did it in the reverse order of what I should have done because the paper doesn't bend this way. What I should have done was I should have stuck this one on first, and that way I could put the last one on, get it adhesived up, and then just fold this over. And then we can fold those and then stick the front one on because we want these all to line up. But I did it the wrong way, so we're going to make it work. We're just going to have to fold our card backwards for a moment. But when you do it, put the middle panel in first. Give yourself the easy way to do it. Now we're just going to line it up at the top there at the 5.5-inch mark. I'm going to have to fold my card backward on itself like so, and that will stick those two together. Now hopefully that means when I turn it like this, they're going to be lined up, and yes they are. Awesome. Now for this last one, we're going to do what we should have done, and we're going to stick it on here, add our adhesive, kind of went backwards on these steps. As you do sometimes. Get ahead of yourself. Okay, so adhesive facing up. We're going to line it up at the top. And if you're, if you got it sitting down on the mat like you should, it should line up at the 5.5. Then we're going to fold this over and it'll stick there. And now when we close it, all of those panels should line up in the same place so that they're not all jiggledy-joggly here and there. We don't want jiggledy-joggly here and there, right? Hey, Kimberly, great tip. Great tip after the fact, right? Okay, so now we have our 3 panels on. We can start our embellishing. And you know me, I love my cows. So I'm going to bring in the Cutest Cows here. I'm going to scooch that out of the way for a second. Grab myself a stamp block. And we're going to stamp some cows. I'm just going to take that all the way off. And walk my stamp off the block. Pick it up like so. And we're going to grab a piece of white cardstock, some black memento ink. Doesn't really matter what kind of black ink, but that's what I have. Sorry, this stamping process is going to jiggle everything. And we're going to stamp our cow body. I know it's a little strange having decapitated cows, but it's okay. We'll make it work. So we've got that. And then one of these little cow faces, the cow is winking. I want a little winky cow. So we're gonna stamp our little winky face over here. And then we also want the other cow that's standing up. Let's stamp him. Her. It's a her. I do know my bovine anatomy. It's a her. And then let's do the regular face that's not winking. Now, I also decided, against my nature, to make Holstein cows, some black and white cows. And so we're not going to have to add much color to this, but we are going to do some with our black Stampin' Right marker. So this is just the black Stampin' Right marker that you would use for lots of things. And I'm just gonna, actually I'll use the brush end. There's a nib end and a brush end. I'm gonna use the brush end. Just gonna color in a few places on these cute little cows. Cutest cows, I should say. So their little top knot, and then their spots, the tail, like so. Just color it in. I'm going to turn it a bit to make it a little easier for me to see what I'm doing. Am I even in the screen? Sort of in the screen. Let's scooch up. Scooch up, scooch up. Pretty simple coloring, isn't it? And then the hooves. It behooves me to color the hooves. Dad joke alert. Okay. Let's get this other one done. And that's it. I'm going to keep the coloring on these little cows really simple because it's actually going to make them stand out. against all of the colorfulness of the Unbounded Beauty DSP, the designer series paper, and the in-color cardstocks, these little Holstein cows are going to stand out. They're outstanding in their field, just like farmers. There we go. And now you know what comes next, because once we have stamped them, we need to cut them. Alrighty. So we're going to trim these around. We're going to leave a halo of the cardstock all the way around, like so. I didn't even do any rough cut really when I did that, but we're managing. And there we go. There's one. One moo, ha ha ha. I feel like the Count on Sesame Street, where he counts everything and then he does ah ha ha. All right. Lots of pivoting of the paper as we do the fussy cutting. Am I the only one that likes cows? Possibly. I guess I'm not, because they wouldn't make a stamp set otherwise. But I do. You can be guaranteed that every time there's something about cows, I'm in there. Okay, now to trim out our cows' bodies, we're just going to follow the stamped line. And when we get to the head, we're just going to cut off to the edge, because that head that we already cut out is going to be added on top. Kind of three-dimensional. We're not even going to use any dimensionals on this particular card. You could, absolutely, but we're not going to. So the dimension will simply be because it's a second piece of paper. And we're just going in and around the legs. And then we're going to cut to the edge, and we can trim some of that off because we don't need all that. And then cow number 2, slightly different posture. I like that they're all different. There's a third cow that's laying down. And it's interesting. In the stamp set, there are some faces, like the eyes and eyebrows and stuff. And I thought, oh, that's kind of weird. I don't know what that's for. And there's a little set of horns. And I'm guessing that in the coordinating die set that there's something that you can die cut that you can add a face to. I didn't look at the die very carefully because I didn't. And but I was thinking you could totally die cut out some balloons or something and add, yeah, Kimberly's got it. 1 cow, 2 cows, Pardon me. You could cut out some balloons and add the faces and the little cow horns to it. I think that would be super cute. Okay. Now, I have gone ahead of time and I have stamped and cut out some embellishments already so that we didn't have to spend time watching Monica cut out embellishments. So from the Shy Shamrock, I stamped out this image from the Flowers of Beauty. I've also stamped out several of the outline of the smaller flower, and I have stamped out this little double leaf cluster. And I've used all different colors of the in-color cardstock. So this is the Shy Shamrock, which is the nice, bright, vibrant green. And I thought it would be nice to have something with a little bit of height happening on here. So we're going to stick this right here on the edge. Like so. And then we're going to bring in one of our cows, our little cow. And there's a little head. And he's going to kind of hang out over here. So let's stick him down. We're just going to put some adhesive on his body. Oh, if I could move my hands in the right position, that would be super helpful. So we're going to stick down his body, her body. Yes, I do know it's a her. I keep saying his, but it's her. Like that. Give her a head so she can make all the cute little mooey noises. There we go. And then I've also got some of the little flower. And I have stamped these on the Petunia Pop, the Pretty in Pink, and the Peach Pie. I'm going to grab my liquid glue for this because that's just easier. I'm going to start with this Petunia Pop. And we'll stick this right about there. Then the pink, Pretty in Pink. And we can kind of tuck that in behind the tail. And then the Peach Pie. That one shifted a little bit. Peach Pie. And just a nice little cluster of these little flowers. And this is the front of our card, right? Because our card folds up like this. So this is the front that we're going to see. In fact, we can decorate it with it closed so that you can see that it's the front. And so I wanted to bring in a stamp from the Cutest Cow. It says, "Holy cow." So I've stamped this on a 3/4 by 2.5 inch piece of white cardstock. And I'm going to dovetail this right side. I'm going to give a little trim in the center and then come in from the corner, come in from the other corner, and that creates our little dovetail. But I'm not going to stop there. I'm going to bring in the Stampin' Right marker. I'm going to use the nib end, and I'm going to do a little bit of just a hand-drawn border around this to make it stand out from all that beautiful paper in the background. Just like that. We're going to keep this handy because we're going to use this again. And now we want to add some adhesive to the back. And we're going to tuck it under here. So we need to just kind of get a feel. Yep, that's going to fit just perfect. We're going to tuck it underneath the little florals we've got going on over here. And line it up like that. I see one of my bits of my dovetail still hanging out. So there we go. And then let's move to the next panel. We'll come back and add just a little bit more to that in a minute. So on our next panel, we have the It's Your Special Day. So it's Holy Cow, it's your special day. And this little piece, I want to do the same angled corners as I did on those. But it's a smaller piece of cardstock. So this is only 1.5 by 2 inches. I'm going to flip it over to the back side because I'm going to use my pen again. Didn't bring my pencil. And I'm going to measure in 1/4 inch from each corner along both sides that are adjacent to the corner. So just 1/4 inch works really well on a mat like this. And then we can go ahead and trim those angles. So before we did 1/2 inch, this time we did 1/4 inch because it's a smaller piece. Doesn't need as big of chunks taken out. There we go. And our last step, let's grab a Stampin' Right marker. Our last step for this. Let's give it a border too. We're just going to work our way carefully around the edges These are all straightish lines. Whether my lines end up being straight or not remains to be seen. And just give it a nice little border to stand out. There we go. So let's put that there, grab some adhesive. And way down here where you can't see them, just putting some adhesive on the back. That's all, just adhesive. And then we're going to kind of line this up in the center if we can, like so. And then let's move over to this one, and then we'll come back to the center. So we're going to move over to this one. And the first thing I want to do is the sentiment. We're going to put a sentiment on each of these panels. So we've got Holy Cow, It's Your Special Day, and the last one is Milk It for All It's Worth. Again, they're all from that same Cutest Cows stamp set. This one, we're going to dovetail both ends. So even though we have 3 panels that are all the same shape, they each have different pattern paper on them. They each have a sentiment, but each of the sentiments has a different kind of font, and they're on different pieces of cardstock. It's not all same. And I think that makes for a lot of interest. It's very fluid in that they all go together, and there are certain things that carry. They're all on white cardstock. They're all going to have a border on them. They're all stamped with black ink, but they have differences to create interest. Because if they were all the same, it could get boring. Nobody wants a boring birthday card. And I kind of like that this is a little bit humorous, right? You're going to milk your birthday for all it's worth. And so we're just drawing our border around like that. Coming back to our card. And we're going to add some adhesive. And then what I want to do is I want to kind of envision this being on the same line as this other one. So I'm just going to do one of these where you just kind of drag it across and hope for the best. We're going to center it from side to side. And that's also going to give us some continuity, right? This one is centered in the center of this, and these ones are centered across-ish. Although this one is now looking very crooked. Let's see if we can't fix that before we move on. I have to bring it closer to me because I can't see what I'm doing very well. There we go. That looks better. Just lift and stick again. Alrighty. Now, some embellishment over here. We have our cute little cow and the head for our cow. I have also stamped out the double little leaf with the Shy Shamrock. I have the Petunia Pop Pretty in Pink and the Peach Pie. So I'm going to go ahead and add some adhesive on that. And we can stick that down. I'm going to overlap onto my sentiment just a smidgen. And then let's grab, let's see, the pink one, I think. Just going to add a little bit of glue in the center. And stick it down there like that. Then the peach pie. Going to make another little floral cluster over here. Like that. And then the Petunia Pop. Like that. Lovely. My lid back on. Let's stick down our little cow. There we go. And what I'm kind of doing when I'm sticking down these cows is I'm putting adhesive along the top of them. And their legs are kind of dangling over those layers of cardstock and designer series paper. And so that kind of gives it a bit of dimension because they're not stuck down flat. If I added adhesive on the bottoms of their legs, they would be forced to try and stick down. I don't really want that. I don't mind the lift. I like that I have my little winky cow over here with the milk it for all it's worth, like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, hint, hint. And then because we're talking about milking it, we've got the little stamp that stamps out the little milk jug. And so this is how it stamps out, but I thought we could modify this a little bit with our Stampin' Right marker. I didn't really want to color all of it in. So I'm going to, on this little rim here, I'm just going to add some black, like that. And then there's a little rim down there, but it's got like rivets or something. I don't know, milk jugs don't really have rivets, but I'm going to add a second line above and then color that in. So it kind of mirrors what's happening at the top. And that's it. That's as fancy as we're going to get. We just added a little bit of black on there. And then we can go ahead and cut it out or die cut it if you're so wanting to. I was saying to the ladies today, like, by the time I stamped this out and got out the washi tape and lined up the die and ran it through the machine, I've already cut it. So why fuss around with the die for that one? It's easy peasy. So I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive just to the upper right of this one because it's going to sit right here, kind of off the side of that piece. And because I've got my adhesive up in this corner, it kind of gives it a little bit of dimension. Now, I didn't just do one of those. We need to have something to decorate here. So I actually have 5 more milk cans to add to this panel. There we go. 5 little milk cans. So let's go ahead and we'll add some adhesive to these. Do I want that liquid? I could do liquid. That might be faster. So I'm going to add some liquid to this. And we're going to put it on up here. Give it a little height. Let's take another one. Add some glue. This one's going to be a little further down. A little space in between, like so. And then let's do a third one. And this one's going to kind of line up where that one is, hopefully. Like that. Just kind of make a little cluster of milk cans. Let's add some glue there. And kind of line it up with that second height one. And then the last one. This is how we're getting away with not using any dimensionals. We're just creating dimension by the way we're layering. There we go. If we wanted to be fancy, we could, of course, bring in some dimensionals, or we could, bring in the markers and do some shadowing. But we need to add some bling. And so I have the loose frosted dots here. Just gonna open them up carefully so they don't boing everywhere. And there are some pink, yellow, and pretty peacock in here. Now I don't think this is the pretty in pink color, but it works. It's close enough because they're kind of translucent. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to add a little glue right below the H in our holy cow. And then we'll add a little bit here and a little bit here. We're going to make just a nice little trio of bling, pardon me. So let's grab the big one. Nope, that's yellow. We want a big pink one. Yep, that's pink. And we'll stick that here, like so. Let's grab a medium size. Is that pink? Yes, I believe it is. We'll stick that down here under the H. I'm just using the take your pick tool with the little gummy end here to pick them up. And then I'm looking for a teeny tiny pink one. There's a teeny tiny pink one. Sometimes you have to flip them over. And we'll stick that up here. There we go. Some little blings. Pardon me. Okay. There we go. We have created our Cutest Cow tri-fold card, starting out with that summer splash base, adding on our Petunia Pop Stripe, then our panels of black cardstock, and then the pretty pattern paper from the Unbounded Beauty DSP collection. Our sentiments in 3 different methods. We've got stamped on different cardstocks from the In-colours. And then, of course, we've got our little black and whites kind of all clustered in the center here. Our Holsteins and our little milk cans. And I think that is a super cute card. And when you stand it up on display, when your bling is dry, it has a nice little profile because it kind of is like a room divider, right? Got the 3 little panels going there. Lots of room on the back to write your message. And there we have it. I hope you enjoyed seeing that tri-fold card come together. The Cutest Cows, Flowers of Beauty, and Unbounded Beauty to create this, along with the In-colours. Have a wonderful evening and a lovely rest of the week, and we will see you again soon. Toodaloo! Bye!